what is it that goes into...
Special sauce.
Yeah. What is it that you need?
In possession, out of possession, attacking transitions, defending transitions, set plays. There's a lot to get in.
What would you say is your philosophy?
What would I say is my philosophy? Well, it changes. So it's important that we respect and support his journey. I'm not sure any team ever again go 6 games, 6 wins, no goals conceded. I'm not sure that happens again.
That's why we're here, to give it the coverage.
Thank you. Of these tournaments where they don't go well and you're literally back home in 9 days, and tournaments are about trying to win it. Our focus in this tournament, we're trying to win it. I'm not into that one.
No, you have. Lee, you signed a new contract with the England U21's team until 2027. You said it was an easy decision. How come?
Because I enjoy my job. I love doing what I do. I'm very lucky to be in this position. You know, there's very few jobs where you get a chance to actually win, and you know the players that we've got are excellent to work with, and the ones that are coming through it's exciting times. Yeah, but the most important thing as well is that I feel valued working here. I think the value that the FA showing me and the trust made it an easy decision.
You had a taste of the men's senior role as interim head coach last year. Have your own ambitions changed at all off the back of that experience?
No, they've never changed, to be honest. My ambition is really simple: do a good job wherever asked. That was a privileged time for not only myself but the rest of the staff. You're always in the back of your mind. We've all seen England squads and picked England teams at tournaments, and been shouting at the telly. And when you get a chance to do it yourself, it's fair to say it's not an easy job, but it's a job that I absolutely loved. It was a 6 games, 3 camps. Great to finish on such a high at Wembley. Obviously having all of the family there as well, so it's a time that I enjoyed. But my focus is the under-21s, and the biggest way that I can affect English football now is by helping that generation.
Did that experience working with, I guess, older players and players who haven't got much more developing to do themselves in terms of physical development or technical development, has it changed you at all as a coach?
I think it's fair to say that I had that opinion that you get to a certain age and then you do stop developing and learning, but I think it's, if anything, showed me the longer I've been coaching that you're never too old to take that on different information. I think the main thing is what I noticed as well with the senior team is that the players are open-minded enough to listen and to try something different, and I can only give them a lot of credit for that. But this generation as well of young players, they come to England, they're able to leave their club baggage at the front gate and be open enough to try something and to express themselves when they're with us.
We talk a lot about international football and how difficult it must be for head coaches, managers to try and get a group of players to play for different clubs, really spend a finite amount of time with each other to try and implement a philosophy and get them to gel and a playing style. Yeah. With the under-21s, it's even more extreme because there's so much churn between players, whether it's players developing into the senior team. How difficult does that make it for you, where even if you look back at the 2023 squad, there are very few players who are left over from that, and you need to look back at the squad from this time last year again, there's been a huge churn.
I think it's something that you get used to. I think it's important that as much as we want to implement in possession, out of possession, attacking transitions, defending transitions, set plays, there's a lot to get in. We have to really simplify it, which we find that if we can play to the players' strengths as much as we can, it makes it a lot easier because the players can adjust around that then, rather than trying to input my philosophy. It's always got to be what's best for the players and how can we get them in the most effective areas on the pitch, and that's what we've tried to do.
What would you say is your philosophy?
What would I say is my philosophy? Well, it changes. I think it's definitely important that when the fans and the people that come watch our games see a team that's going to attack. I think you always want to sit in a stadium and know that the team that you're watching are trying to score and trying to attack and are positive. But obviously with that comes the other side of the game as well, that of not losing your own jewels and making sure that you're difficult to play against. So I'm not into that one.
No, you have. It's just an interesting question because if you think back to anyone who's watched the under-21s team recently and saw the two games a couple of months ago, which were very high scoring, watched your England teams, the men's senior team as well, will see a really expansive attacking style of play. But in the 2023 Euros victory, England didn't concede a goal. So is there an element where going into tournament football, the ideology and the playing style shifts a bit because it's tournament football rather than being...
Yeah, I definitely think that you are a lot more cautious in tournaments because the margin for error is very, very, very short. So we have to be aware of that. We have to definitely respect our opponents. So getting the best out of the players is what we'll try and do. I think the longer I've been coaching, the more my philosophy has changed. I think it's, when you first start coaching, you've got a manual of this is exactly what I want to do, but one thing you forget in that manual is the players. So it's important that, I've had to adjust as I've got older.
Do you think there's a wider point with the way that fans and I guess the media talk about managers? There isn't enough credit given to the fact that managers like players will develop over time and therefore should be given time to learn.
Yeah, well, I think that's the time bit, isn't it? That's the problem, because one thing managers, head coaches don't get is time. I've been lucky that now I've been here for a good few years, which has helped with the trust that the FA have got in me. They can see that I'm trying to do a good job and putting the players first, which ultimately, if we're gonna be successful, that's what we've got to do.
Looking at the squad that was announced earlier today, I guess some of the headline news being James McAtee as captain for the camp. Big news for you and the squad with him not being in the Man City Club World Cup squads. How much of a boost was that, and why did you choose him to be the skipper?
Yeah, well, the communication with all of the clubs that are involved in the Club World Cup has been going on since probably after January. No pressure from our end, but just putting our case forward on what we want and how we think it looks. James McAtee is a massive part of the squad, a player that we're really happy to get, a player that's really committed to playing for England, and we've seen that with his performances in the 21s, especially when we was up with the senior team and watching them play, a player that is massively connected to the team. I think he definitely can improve his leadership skills, and giving him the captaincy will help that, because we have to think about the all-round development of a player, not just his technical ability, but we're happy that James is with us.
And looking at the top end of the pitch, Jay Stansfield is the only recognised striker, I guess, because linked to that out after his move to Chelsea and Dane Scarlett injured. We saw in 2023 that Anthony Gordon played a lot of his football in the tournament through the middle. We've seen you tinker, I guess, with players' positions generally.
Yeah.
There's always this fixation on natural positions.
Yeah.
But it's kind of part of your philosophy, I guess, that players do have skills that enable them to play in multiple positions.
And I think we have to get away from the rigidness of a position. I think we've got areas of the pitch where we need to attack from or defend from, and getting our players into them positions is more important than having a so-called recognised number 9 or number 7 or 11 in terms of positionally. Players have to have that flexibility to move where they think they can be most creative.
And I think a lot of eyes will be on Ethan Waneri ahead of the competition, given just 18 years old and obviously a prodigious talent. What's it been like working with him?
Ethan's an excellent player, brilliant to work with, player that's been thrust into the limelight with Arsenal. So it's important that we respect and support his journey. We have to manage him. Like you said, his age, the amount of football he's played. We'll be careful with him.
Ahead of a tournament, obviously the focus now for you and the squad is to go and win the tournament again and try and do it back to back.
Yeah.
In terms of your job itself, do you see, if you are the England men's senior team or the women's team, the Lionesses manager, then your job is to go and win trophies. With the other 21s, do you see it more a role of developing young talent in order to go and progress, or do you see it as being a case where the main job is to go and win?
Yeah, I think it changes. I think there's a development over the 2 years. Now we're at a tournament, and tournaments are about trying to win it. So I think our focus in this tournament, we're trying to win it. I could hide behind, it's important that we develop players, and of course it is. Them getting to the last stage of tournaments in high pressure situations is a really important part of what we see as helping them.
You are one of the very few people in recent times who can wear an England tracksuit and be a head coach of a team that's won a tournament. What would you say is the special sauce? What is it that goes into
special sauce?
Yeah. What is it that you need to go in a tournament? Like how do we?
Well, you need a lot of luck. Yeah. You need a lot of luck. If you think about the goal in the final, I think Cole hits it at the wall. Curtis turns his back. It hits him in the back and goes in the goal, and that's 1-0 against Spain. So you need your luck. You need a goalkeeper that can make outstanding saves in big moments, and we had that with James Trafford. We had a unique moment in time in terms of them players were so connected to the team, the squad, for the 3 weeks that they were there, and the fact that they're, when people talk about that squad, in terms of when I'm watching, some of the games on telly, and they'll say so from Morgan Gibbs-White, under 21 Euro champion, it's definitely makes me feel good that they get that acknowledgement. It's just a shame that we didn't have more coverage at the time, because I'm not sure any team ever again go 6 games, 6 wins, no goals conceded. I'm not sure that happens again.
That's why we're here, to give it the coverage. Lee.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you.
It's you mentioned it there, when you've got, look at how quickly that team has developed from being an under-21s team into now being, in Cole Palmer's case, somebody scored in the Euros final a year later. Anthony Gordon is down there and scored consistently, Morgan Gibbs-White as well. Yeah. Is there any element where you can Do you speak to the players about that progression and that pathway to the men's senior team?
Well, you can only keep giving them targets. I think it's, ultimately we speak a lot about ownership and responsibility. How far you go will be how far you go. And I think what you've seen in that in them examples that you've mentioned there, like say for instance Cole didn't start the first game in the Euros, worked his way into the team and played in the final and obviously scored the goal. So and then went on and done great things and still is. So it can definitely give you a different perspective on careers and how. They change so quickly, but ultimately it's down to themselves. We can only provide an opportunity for them to grasp, and you're just hoping that they take it.
And looking ahead to the first couple of games in the tournament, I guess again under 21 is quite different in terms of preparation for the opposition. Czechia first up.
Yeah.
How much work are you and your team doing in terms of preparing for the threat that they pose?
Yeah, definitely. We obviously take into consideration their strengths, and then we turn that around quite quickly on how do we get their weaknesses. One of the negative things about this job is that we have so much time to look at. So all I've been looking at for the last maybe 4 months is Czech, Slovenia and Germany. So watching a lot of games, and you watch their campaign back, and you watch the new players that are coming in, and you can see them evolving as well. So none of these games are going to be easy, definitely not. And it's important that we have the right motivation, right energy, and we attack them.
And how do you, with the players obviously being relatively young, during the tournament, is it a case of having to manage their time, like trying to unite them as a group?
Yeah, it's a unique tournament in terms of the amount of time between games. It's like a traditional old-fashioned under-21 tournament in terms of you play, recover, play. So there's one day less recovery, which the players won't be used to. At their clubs, you get a minimum of 3 days and then you play again. So we have to make sure that we manage the game time. I don't think anyone can. I'll be very surprised if anyone can do 3 90s on the bounce. So it's important that we pick the right players in the right games, manage the minutes.
And that there are a few players, I won't go into details, but a few players whose futures are up in the air in regards to contracts and transfer speculation. Is that quite hard to have to manage?
No, I think it's definitely not hard to manage. We put time aside within our schedule to make sure that if they do need to have a medical, or if they do need to speak to clubs, that there's time then for them to do that. We try and remove the stress as much as we can. What we can't do is we can't stop them thinking about it, but what we can try and do is support them while they're going through that. It's speaking from experience, I've moved myself. It's very stressful to move clubs in terms of the location where you're going to go, the level you're going to play at, and all the rest of it. We have to bear in mind their age as well. So a big part of what we do is, especially in between training and games, is making sure that we're there just if they need a chat or a push in the right direction.
And finally, how motivated are you? You've signed this contract to 2027, so you'll be in charge for this Euros and the next one. We won back-to-back Euros in 82 and 84, but to go and do it 3 times in a row, is that what times you? Well,
I think if we could do it twice, I think that would definitely put us on a good path. The main thing is that we perform in this tournament. It's such a build-up that can potentially be over so quickly. So. I've been on the other end of these tournaments where they don't go well, and you're literally back home in 9 days with better squads as well in the past. So hopefully we can perform well. They can enjoy the experience, and we can try and win again.
Brilliant, thank you, Lee. Cheers.
Thank you. Nice one.